Okay, today we are on page 271 of Wonder. We just found out that Augie had all those friends take up for him, and they went running and away from the other students that were making fun of Augie, and Augie has lost his hearing aids. So this chapter is called The Emperor's Guard. We backtracked through the grass for a good 10 minutes to see if we could find my hearing aids, but it was way too dark to see anything. We literally had to hold on to each other's shirts and walk in a single file so we wouldn't trip over each other. It was like black ink had been poured all around. "This is hopeless," said Henry. "They could be anywhere." "Maybe we could come back with a flashlight," answered Amos. "No, it's okay," I said. "Let's just go back. Thanks, though." We walked back towards the cornfields and then cut through them until the back of the giant screen came into view. Since it was facing away from us, we didn't get any light from the screen at all until we walked around to the edge of the woods again. That's when we finally started seeing a little light. There was no sign of the 7th graders anywhere. "Where do you think they went?" said Jack. "Back to the food truck," said Amos. "They're probably thinking we're going to report them." "Are we?" asked Henry. They looked at me. I shook my head. "Okay," said Amos, "but little dude, don't walk around here alone again. If you need to go somewhere, tell us and we'll go with you." "Okay," I nodded. As we got closer to the screen, I could hear high on a hill was a lovely goatherd, and I could smell the cotton candy from one of the concession stands near the food trucks. There were lots of kids mulling around in this area, so I pulled what was left of my hoodie over my head and kept my face down, hands in my pockets. As we made our way through the crowd, it had been a long time since I had been without my hearing aids, and it felt like I was miles under the earth. It felt like that song Miranda used to sing to me. "Ground control to Major Tom. Your circuit's dead. There's something wrong." I did notice as I walked that Amos had stayed right next to me, and Jack was close on the other side of me, and Miles was in front of us, and Henry was in back of us. They were surrounding me as we walked through the crowds of kids, like I had my own Emperor's Guard. Next chapter is called Sleep. Then they came out of the narrow valley, and at once she saw the reason. There stood Peter and Edmund and all the rest of Aslan's army fighting desperately against the crowd of horrible creatures whom she had seen last night. Only now in the daylight they looked stranger and more evil and more deformed. I stopped there. I'd been reading for over an hour, and sleep still didn't come. It was almost 2 a.m. Everyone else was asleep. I had my flashlight on under the sleeping bag, and maybe the light was why I couldn't sleep, but I was too afraid to turn it off. I was afraid of how dark it was outside the sleeping bag. When we got back to our section in front of the movie screen, no one had even noticed we'd been gone. Mr. Tushman and Ms. Rubin and Summer and all the other kids were just watching the movie. They had no clue how something bad had almost happened to me and Jack. It's so weird how that can be, how you can have a night that's the worst of your life, but everyone else is just an ordinary night. Like on my calendar at home, I would mark this as being one of the most horrific days of my life. This and the day that Daisy died. But for the rest of the world, it was just an ordinary day. Or maybe even a good day. Maybe someone won the lottery today. Amos, Miles, and Henry brought me and Jack over to where we had been sitting before with Summer and Maya and Reed, and then they went and sat where they had been sitting before with Jimena and Savannah in their group. In a way, everything was exactly as we had left it before we went looking for the toilets. The sky was the same, the movie was the same, everyone's faces were the same, mine was the same, but something was different. Something had changed. I could see Amos and Miles and Henry telling their group about what just happened. I knew they were talking about it because they kept looking over at me while they were talking, even though the movie was still playing. People were whispering about it in the dark. News like that spreads fast. It was what everyone was talking about on the bus ride back to the cabins. All the girls, even girls I didn't know very well, were asking if I was okay. The boys were all talking about getting revenge on the group of 7th grade jerks, trying to figure out what school they were from. I wasn't planning on telling the teachers about any of what had happened, but they found out anyway. Maybe it was the torn sweatshirt and the bloody elbow. Or maybe it's just that teachers hear everything. When we got back to camp, Mr. Tushman took me to the first grade office, and while I was getting my elbow cleaned and bandaged up by the camp nurse, Mr. Tushman and the camp director were in the next room talking with Amos and Jack and Henry and Miles, trying to get a description of the troublemakers. When he asked me about them a little later, I said I couldn't remember their faces at all, which was not true. Oh, sorry. It's their faces I keep seeing every time I close my eyes to sleep. The look of total horror on the girl's face when she first saw me. The way the kid with the flashlight, Eddie, looked at me as he talked to me like he hated me. Like a lamb to the slaughter, I remember Dad saying that ages ago. But tonight, I think I finally got what it meant. Mom was waiting for me in front of the school along with all the other parents when the bus arrived. Mr. Tushman told me on the bus ride home that they had called my parents to tell them that there had been a situation the night before, but that everything was fine. He said that the camp director and several of the counselors were looking for the hearing aids in the morning while we went swimming in the lake, but they couldn't find it anywhere. Broarwood would reimburse us the cost of the hearing aids, he said. They felt bad about what had happened. I wonder if Eddie had taken my hearing aids with him as a kind of a souvenir, something to remember the orc. Mom gave me a tight hug when I got off the bus, but she didn't slam me with questions like I thought she might. Her hug felt good, and I didn't shake it off like some of the other kids were doing with their parents' hugs. The bus driver started unloading our duffel bags, and I went to find mine while Mom talked to Mr. Tushman and Ms. Rubin, who had walked over to her. As I rolled my bag towards her, a lot of kids who don't usually say anything to me were nodding hello or patting my back as I walked by them. "Ready?" Mom said when she saw me. She took my duffel bag. I didn't even try to hold on to it. It was fine with her carrying it. If she wanted to carry me on her shoulders, I would have been fine with that too, to be truthful. As we started to walk away, Mr. Tushman gave me a quick, tight hug, but didn't say anything. Okay, that's where we're stopping for today. More to come.